Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Dental Unfiltered. I'm here with a normal partner, Dr. Andrew Vallo is my co-host. We have a really cool episode kind of set up for you guys. Advanced marketing techniques. We don't really we talk about marketing, we don't really get into the nitty-gritty of it a lot. And we think that, there's a place right now for an episode where we kind of really get into the advanced thinking and the higher level stuff that Andrew does. I think a really good place to start with this with Dr. Vallo, he's built a bunch of, 1 million and $2 million practices over the last couple of years. And he's opened up practice six now. I know that growth is fueled heavily by marketing, but I think the real story starts with, what failed and didn't work. So I want to open up with Dr. Vallo of like, you did Startup One years ago. I remember me and you met a bunch of times and you tried a whole lot of things before you worked with me. And really the reality is like, tell the listeners like the things that you banged your head against the wall trying to figure out that just led to no return or like just left you in frustration, like the trial and error process to get to where you are right now so they can avoid those mistakes. What were those things in the beginning for you?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Hey guys, I think this will be a really awesome episode. I get a lot of you guys reaching out to me on Facebook and on email. And I would say probably close to half of the messages I get do ask me specific questions about my marketing. I do know we mention it kind of throughout the podcast here and there, but I agree with Matt. I think we've done a lot of big picture overviews, so we're going to get a little bit more in the nitty gritty today, and I think this is a great place to start. So I guess we can kind of go back in time here to when I first opened my very first startup, the West Chase office. When I first did that, back then I was a little bit more naive. I was a little bit more strapped for cash, and I thought I was the smartest person in the room, and I had interviewed with some marketing companies, including Matt's. And while I really liked some of the stuff they were showing me, I thought that I could do as good of a job on my own and save a little bit of money. So when I first opened the office, the very first thing I did was kind of a DIY. So I didn't really have a true marketing company doing the marketing for me. I did pay for a cheaply made website. That was about the extent of it at that point. And I will say, I mean, I hustled. I really did. The type of ground marketing stuff, all the local events. I learned Facebook. I learned how to make Facebook ads. I learned a little bit about Google, not as much as Facebook, but I did throw out some Google ads, and honestly, like I was doing okay. I was getting some new patients in the door. I was building, my brand within the community. I do think a lot of it was just like that new startup practice where word got around a little bit. Hey, there's this new dentist, new startup practice. I had gotten to know some people in the community, so they helped support me. We did a ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce, so we got a number of people out there, and that kind of helped spark some new patients. So, I will say it did get me by, and we had a solid start for the first month or two, but I quickly saw that the new patient numbers started to dwindle. So, like that initial honeymoon phase where we got this burst from the ground marketing was starting to fade. The ads that I was running myself just weren't performing that great. I wasn't spending enough money on marketing because back then I did not realize as a startup practice how much you really do need to spend on ad spend. And honestly, I had a little bit of a freak out moment. I remember being in my West Chase office after a day where the schedule was a little bit more open, than I was used to, and I saw for the next week that there was a ton of hygiene openings. We didn't have a lot of treatment on the schedule, and I was like, oh crap. Like, I think I had gotten into this false sense of security at that point in time. And I didn't want to lose the momentum that we had built early on. So I wanted to get back in the swing of things. And so I actually tried two different, I guess you can call them cheaper. They weren't even like marketing companies. They were like individuals that could help you, with marketing. So I tried two different ones, and they both did okay. I mean, they both got me some patients in the door, but both were pretty short lived. I realized pretty early on that wasn't, they weren't the people that were going to get me to that next stage. So, eventually I had a second kind of consultation meeting with Matt about, his company Energize Group, and we ran through everything again. And I decided, at that point in time, again, early on in my startup phase and cash flow is a little tighter, but I decided, my number one goal is I wanted to grow this practice as quickly as possible. So I was going to bite the bullet. I was going to spend a little bit more money, on marketing services, and I also agreed to increase my ad spend. And so, while I take a lot of credit for my abundance mindset, I do think some of those early failures, I hate to call them failures because we did have a good start, but it wasn't as successful as it could have been. It wasn't as successful as my new startups are out the gate. So I think in a sense they were failures, or at least, inability to capture the full potential of what a startup can be. I think those help lead me to this abundance mindset. I think meeting with Matt helped lead me to that abundance mindset. So I think that was kind of the first stage of the things that really went wrong for me on the marketing front.
Honestly, you did the same thing every startup doc does, right? So we do a startup docs every day at Energize, and like there's always a level of like I need to, and listen, the DIY part of like doing the chamber of commerce, going to local businesses, the ground marketing is never, it's like it's all upside, right? It's your sweat equity, it's all good ROI, right? But getting a trusted agency who's professional at doing this is really critical. So you did the trial and error, and that was rough, right? It was a learning process. I don't think we call it a failure because you learned what was and wasn't working. I think one thing that's really important for docs listening to this is it's as important in marketing to know what you did in that it didn't work, and to see where it's leading you to what is working, right? Like you need to know the path that you went down that was bad. So really good example is, traditional marketing processes, A/B split testing or tournament testing, where you test three ads out, three don't perform or two don't perform, one does. But it's good to remember the two didn't perform and what elements were involved and tracking all this, right? So when you first got deeper into it and you started to see traction from marketing, how were you quantifying the wins and losses and this working? Like how are you like saying like this is what's working? How are you recognizing it as a doc so you knew where you were putting your dollars?
Yeah, well, but before I joined on with you guys, I really wasn't. I wasn't getting reports like the reports that Energize provides. So I was just basing it on what the schedule looked like and how many new patients were coming the door and things like that. So that was, it was more of gut feeling, more anecdotal at that point. I think once I joined with Energize, that's when I started to really be able to measure the true ROI of the ad spend. And I will say things very quickly took an uptick. So, but the first couple months when we opened, I think we were doing like 60 to 80K a month those first few months as I kind of did the DIY and the two other trials. The first month I signed on with Energize was the first month we broke 100K, and we really never looked back. So things did improve pretty quickly. However, I still think there were some things that I needed to learn. I think once I made the decision to, spend for a real marketing company and increase ad spend and all that, at the very beginning, I kind of thought like, okay, well, that's taken care of. That's off my plate. I can just kind of let them handle it. And, I was still involved in a sense. And, honestly, I was probably at that point still even more involved than a lot of docs were, or are, but not to the extent I am now. So, what I've realized over these last 3.5 years as I've, built these 4 startups and preparing to open 5 and 6 in the next couple of months here, marketing is like literally the most important thing for me as far as growth is concerned. And so as I've stepped into the CEO role for my group, even though I have what I feel like has been a great marketing company that I've partnered with, that is like one of my main roles is staying very involved in the marketing. So like what it looks like nowadays, I have these monthly marketing meetings with my marketing manager from Energize. And I don't just like show up and go through the motions. Like I literally prep for these meetings. I go through the different offices. I'm looking at how the schedule's been lately. I'm looking at what our revenue's been lately. I'm looking at the reports and the dashboards I have from Energize. So when I come into these meetings, I typically have an agenda of things that I want to talk about. So, when I meet with Luke, I want to talk about how this office and how the Google ads maybe are underperforming, and do we want to either shift more ad spend to Facebook, or do we want to switch some of the Google advertising? Or for this office, we're not really seeing any of these patients that we're advertising for, so do we either need to try a different approach for that type of procedure, or is maybe Facebook not the best route for that procedure, and maybe we try to use Google for that procedure? So like I come into these meetings actually prepared, as does Luke, and so we can have like a true sit down meeting with an agenda where we accomplish things. And at the end of each meeting, we like literally end it with like, okay, these are the action items. Like, Luke, this is what I want you to do for this office. This is what I want you to do for that office. So what I want you to do for that office. And then Luke has agenda items for me too. Hey, I want you to record some live videos about this advertisement, for this office. I want you to, get this to me so we can get that on your website for that office. So it's kind of a two-way street. We really truly are a team working together to try to optimize every single facet of our advertising for each of our offices.
So, part of this is like advanced marketing techniques. Part of it is the deliberateness in which you do everything involving your marketing, right? Are you putting the effort behind the growth part of your business that you do put behind like developing your clinical abilities, right? Or is like, do you think about it as like such a secondary thing? I think the spirit in which you do it with is really critical when you're working with any agency, not just ours, but if you're working with any third party agency as a dental practice, you would get annoyed if the marketer showed up and you could tell the first time he looked at the reporting was 20 minutes before your meeting, right? You'd be annoyed. On the other side, if you want to be effective at managing your relationship with a marketing agency, you should know your reporting in depth and have an idea of questions that you want to come with to work with that individual. I'll tell you this honestly, a lot of docs blow off that meeting all the time and never even go. And if you think about it, you're blowing off the people who give you the lifeblood of your practice as patients. You've invested more money with them than you put in your retirement account a month. And you're saying, I'm not going to meet with them because I don't have time for that. I think the deliberateness in which you do things is really critical. I think that is an advanced marketing skill, is like, your own metrics and your own data. And it's not just impressions, clicks, and views that you can see in really any agency's dashboard they give you, but it's also, are you looking at your cases and saying, you know what, I know I got these four big cases from this, and I'm correlating everything properly. So when I go talk to them, like, hey, listen, I want to replicate these successes, and I want to mitigate these areas here where we lost money, like you said about the Google ads. Like, should we limit the payment there and move that money somewhere else to make it more effective? If you don't look at this, so every doc, right, is like, oh, marketing, it's scary to invest in. But then when they finally get over the barrier and invest it, they don't put the effort into it, right? It's like you can only get out of something the effort you're going to put into it. If you think you're going to hire an agency and be like, hands off, I'm done as a business owner, you're not putting the effort in like you care about that investment. And it's really critical. And I'll tell you this, as a marketer, if you come to the meeting and you have your own questions you're prepared for and you're familiar with the same data I'm looking at, our conversation is so much more effective.
Yeah, no, I think those are all great points, Matt. I think just like anything else in life and in business, you're going to get out of it what you put in. So, I had the same experience when I worked with Ideal Practices for my startup consulting. And I will say most of the other clients from Ideal who did startups with them had great experience, had great things to say. But I did speak to some who maybe didn't have as good of an experience. And, as we had the conversation, what I eventually realized is that, like, when they signed on, and their mindset was, hey, I'm going to spend 50 grand or whatever it was for this consulting agency, and they're just going to do everything for me, and I'm just going to show up and have my startup. So, like, guys, like, again, the reason why I was so successful with my first startup and with each subsequent startup wasn't because of a specific consultant or vendor I used. Now, they definitely helped me along the way, but it's also your level of effort, your level of caring, your level of grit. This is like the most important thing you're going to do in your life from a business standpoint. And like, why would you not give it your all? I mean, I actually was having this conversation with one of my associate docs today because I'm doing this carnivore diet. Matt and I are actually doing it. Well, we're going to do an episode later to tell you guys our results, but it's been fun. But
We're both on the carnivore right now.
I was talking to my associate doc about it, and he like couldn't believe how strict this diet that I'm doing is, and he was kind of like, "Man, like, are you okay? Like, do you need an intervention?" I was like, "Dude, you know me. Like, I don't do anything half-ass. Like, if I'm gonna do something, I am all in." And I was all in when I opened my first startup. I was all in when I signed on, with Energize for marketing services. I'm all in when I open a new startup. So, again, it's not really worth doing something in life if you're not going to give it all your effort. And so, like, just keep that in mind, guys. Just because you find a great company, they can be the best company in the world for that specific service. If you don't put any effort in yourself, like, for most things, it's not just set and forget. Like, you do have to be involved in the process and you do have to care. There's the sayings like, let sleeping dogs lie, or it's not broke, don't fix it. I think this really applies to marketing and marketing mistakes too. Early on, I had great performing ads, but my goal each month, each year, like, I want my ads to perform better than they did last month or last year. And there's a couple things that go into that. One is, I mean, there's changing algorithms all the time. So if you do a lot of digital advertising like I do, Google is constantly changing their algorithms. Facebook's constantly changing. Instagram's constantly changing. So if you just like have a good ad and like that's all you're going to do, and you don't try to continue to measure the results and adapt and change based on what they're looking for, you're going to lose effectiveness and efficiency over time. But here's the other thing too, is like, as you perfect that ad, you're going to find ways to just tweak it, make it even a little bit better. And I think one of those that I've really learned is these days, the meta platforms, they really value the video content. So, for years, all I was doing was, picture ads, and Energize makes a lot of ads for me. I make some of my own on Canva. I'm by no means a digital artist or anything like that, but it's not too hard to get on Canva and throw together a decent looking ad. And those ads were effective and they worked well. And I was just actually telling Matt earlier today. We've got one of our Invisalign parties coming up, and I mean, these are like crazy successful events. This is going to be our biggest one yet. We've like already booked so many new patients for these Invisalign parties that it's happening at two of my offices at once. But like in the past, I had only done picture ads. So, I was basically advertising the party, I literally in big font, win free Invisalign treatment. And typically it would cost me somewhere between like $8 and $10 per message. And this was on Instagram. I found Instagram was the most effective way to do this. And that's not bad. I mean, $8 to $10 per lead is really not too bad. However, as I've been hearing more and more about this video content, and I tried a few video ads for some other things, I was like, you know what? Let me try this for the Invisalign party. All of a sudden, my cost per lead went from $8 to $10 to under $2. Basically, like 1/5 of the cost that I used to spend. But here's the thing, guys. Again, if I would have just said, oh, these ads have been working, I'm just going to, kind of copy and paste the same ad over and over again, I'd still be paying $8 to $10 or maybe even more as these algorithms are changing. So, with the success that I had with those Invisalign party video ads, I got to thinking, I said, you know what? I haven't tried this for our free whitening ad, which is one of our, most popular ads for new patients. And again, typically similar range, usually $7 to $10, depending on the ad and the audience and all that good stuff. This ad with the video for the free whitening came in at an even lower cost than the Invisalign party ads. All of a sudden, I'm paying $1.48 per lead. That is crazy, guys. So again, you've got to constantly measure the performance of your ads. You got to work with your marketing company and have regular meetings where you both come prepared to discuss what's working, what's not working. You've got to take advice from other dentists and podcasts and Facebook groups. Here's the thing. If I had tried these video ads and they just were a total flop, okay, like no problem, but it's always worth trying something, because maybe it's way better than what you had been doing before.
Going back to the video ads, right? So we're talking about advanced marketing techniques, right? Guys, the platforms are always changing, right? And short format video, TikTok, Reels, that kind of stuff has become the king because the way the platforms think is whatever keeps you on the platform so we can sell more marketing is
Yep.
what's important. So let's talk about the source of why that was more effective and then talk about the fears we have to get over to do it, right? So the reason why the video ads were more effective wasn't necessarily because Dr. Vallo made awesome video ads. What it was the platforms prioritized short format video to show to users. So more user eyes are seeing short format video, which means there's more population using that function on the platform. So it's not that his video ads were amazing, it's that he put his ads in a place that the platforms prioritize for viewing. And because there's more viewing, it was easier to get a lead costs come down. It's not that he created this awesome high value content. It's where the eyes were. Now, a lot of times is a fear. We tell Doc all the time, Doc, take out your camera, take out your phone, shoot a selfie video, and just send it to us. And they'll spend all this time to make it perfect. Guys, quality of content isn't as important as having it in the right place. If you're in fear of being on video, you need to get over it because it's the future of social media marketing right now. You have to figure out a way to whip out your phone, shoot a selfie, say your message, send it to your marketer rapidly, and then have them get it on the platforms as soon as possible. If you're going to sit there and shoot videos with your team 2 or 3 for a week and we're working on it for this week, we'll have it to you next week, you're missing the opportunity cost you're missing is so high, you're wasting your time. Shoot the video, send it to your marketer, let your marketer go work with it as the professional and decide what it should and shouldn't do and where it should be. But it's really important to understand, like, guys, this is the deal. You're going to be on video. That's just where it's at now. And you need to provide your marketer with that. It's shifted and changed, and that's just, you have to adapt. So next thing I want to ask you, Andrew, is so we talked about what kind of didn't work, what you did, where you put your money, and now you went to video, and video made a really big difference, right?
I wanted to just kind of piggyback off what you're saying on the video ads. Guys, believe it or not, like I truly am at heart like an introvert. Like yes, I do this podcast and stuff like that, but like I don't love putting myself out there. If it wasn't for my businesses, I would not be shooting videos and posting them on social media. I wouldn't even have an Instagram account. Like I do this for the sole purpose that I've realized how impactful it can be for my dental offices. I'm no Ryan Reynolds. I'm not that funny. I'm not that good looking. I'm not that entertaining. But to Matt's point, you don't have to make some amazing, hilarious, super clever video. I literally take my iPhone in my office when no one else is there, so there's not a bunch of background noise, and I take selfie videos of myself. Just and basically like the general script is because I'm in Tampa. Hey, Tampa, would you like a chance to win free Invisalign treatment? Hey, Tampa, would you like free teeth whitening? And then I just go into, our quick spiel or whatever, introduce myself briefly. And all I say is just send me a message on Instagram for more information. So, you give a little bit of information about what you're offering, you tell them to send you a message, and all of a sudden your Instagram messages start blowing up with all these potential patients. And then you can give them all the details. So like you don't have to shoot a 5-minute video. Honestly, don't do that. Like people are not going to sit there and watch it.
It's actually, it's a bad thing to do, actually.
Make it short to the point. Bring a little bit of energy. I will be honest, like when I shoot these videos, I typically do at least a handful of tries because the first time you do it, you're just not as you're like thinking about what you want to say, you're not as energetic, you might not be looking into the camera as much, you might be blinking more. But like as you do it a couple times, you start to build confidence. Now you know what you want to say. Now you bring a little more energy to it. And again, you don't have to be a professional actor. You don't have to be some socialite extrovert who feels super comfortable on the camera. You just have to do it. And I'm telling you, if you do it and you try it and you take a few shoots and you post it on your social media and you boost it as an ad, it's going to work. I mean, there's not like our area is super saturated. I see a ton of advertisements out there for dental offices. I don't see that many video ads where the dentist is, talking. So like it does kind of set you apart a little bit with your advertising. So
So, really important thing you said. You said, like, I say, hey, Tampa, right? It's really important, guys, whether it's a text marketing message on social media, a video, a graphic, whatever it is, it's very important to geographically address the audience. So when they see the ad or the social media post or whatever it is in their timeline on their phone as they're scrolling, hey, Tampa allows them to know this is geographically relevant to them and it's something they can seek and use. I travel a lot for work. I'm going to explain why this is important. I travel a ton for work. You guys see me at dental events, I speak. I pick up ads in other places and end up back home here in Wilmington the next day and I'm scrolling and the ads are still feeded into my timeline. And I saw an ad for this really cool like trampoline jump place my kids would love. I was like, oh, this new place. I literally thought there was a new place in town. And then the first thing my brain did was look and see where it says in the copy where it's at. And it was in Houston, Texas, where I just came from, right? But like in the inverse, if I saw that and it said Wilmington, North Carolina, I would instantly be like, oh, I want to learn more and find out what this place is and go take my kids there, right? So geographically addressing the audience is really important. I think, and Andrew, I'd love your viewpoint on this. This goes into advanced marketing techniques. I think it's a three-part act. So I think the first is geographically address your audience. Second is say your message, what's going on, whatever you're trying to deliver. Third is giving them the call to action to how they contact you. I
yep.
think it's a simple three-part act, and it's a 30 to 40-second video so it can be consumed easily. And I think the pursuit of perfection of this is the enemy of effectiveness.
Yeah,
Because if you're trying to
I
pursue
agree.
perfection in this, what you're going to do is you're going to kill the effectiveness. I'll tell you this: organic content where it looks like you shot it with your phone, it almost feels like a friend sent you a video, has a familiar, very casual feel, and it's much better. If we brought a film crew, shot the same message, did it the same way, in perfect settings, with you wearing a lavalier mic and everything, I believe it would be significantly less effective than shooting it on your phone in the operatory on the fly and sending it to your doc.
I think especially on social media, if you're doing TV commercials, which I've never done, and I do know some docs that do it and believe that it's brought them some success. So I'm not telling you it's absolutely, a bad idea. I will tell you it's very expensive. I did look into it.
Oh, it's ginormously expensive.
Yes. I mean, just getting the whole
The
process
production alone.
started is very expensive. And then you have to pay a good bit every time it airs and all that stuff. So for me, I think there's better routes with the social media, or if you're doing a TV commercial, I do think it should be professional. If you ever see those like kind of amateur ones on TV, you kind of laugh at them. I don't think they get a whole lot of responses. But on social media, it's not really supposed to be professional. It's supposed to be more organic. That's what most of the content on there is. So I agree with Matt. I think if you spend the money and do a professional shoot for an Instagram ad, I think it's honestly going to be less effective and you're going to spend a lot more money and time doing it. So
Really quick to say on that also is, it is kind of like guerrilla marketing, right? When you shoot that and that film crew is there, you're restricted to the creation of content in that one session, and then you're limited to the use of that forever because it burns out fast.
true.
When you have the
True.
ability to shoot content, you get comfortable shooting on your phone on the fly, you can create more content rapidly, get more out there, get more data feedback, and know what's really working, what's really not working. It gives you way more moves to pivot and move and find out what works. When you're limited to that production value and that production time, it kind of cans everything up and it's kind of locked.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's pretty quick to shoot these videos because they should be like 30-second videos, even if you're taking a few takes. I will say though, there are times where I mean, as we all, life gets so busy where I want to shoot a video ad. And I do normally like to do it at the office because our office is aesthetically pleasing and I want to kind of showcase that in the ad. So there's times where I'm like, "Oh, I really want to do it, but it's hard for me to find time outside of office hours to go do it because I got a million things on my plate." So when I do go, I think about like the next 3 or 4 ads that I might want to run and I just shoot videos for all of them. So instead of spending 10 minutes there, shooting ads for one video, maybe I spend a half hour, 40 minutes or whatever it is, and I shoot ads for 3 or 4. So I think that's a good technique. And that way, you don't have to go as often, especially if you do want to do it at the office. Now, guys, you can try these in your home. You can do them out in, parks and stuff like that. But we've got the little chandelier centerpiece, we've got the gold 3D walls and all that. So in my mind, it's like I built this nice looking office. I want to utilize that for the ads that I'm doing. So
Yeah, I think it's important to know too, like, Doc, if you're listening, right, and you're like, oh, I can't get on video. I'm not doing that. This is the deal. You're the doc that needs to go do it then. Like, if you have that apprehension today, shoot a selfie video, put it on your Facebook page. Just start doing it. Because the reality is, you get comfortable as you do it.
well, and I think it'll help you get practice being even more comfortable when you're talking to patients too. So, like, think about this, guys. Like the same way that I like psych myself up to do one of these videos is kind of the same way that you psych yourself up to go in the room and see a new patient. I mean, there's days that you're exhausted and you're just like, oh man, like I got to go meet this new person and expend all this energy, but I've got to be like on my A game and I've got to be enthusiastic and friendly and interested and all that stuff. So the more you shoot these videos where you've got to kind of display that, the more practice it gives you to kind of be your best version for your patient exams and things like that too. You might actually see an increase in treatment acceptance. And here's the other thing, guys: people coming into your practice from these video ads, they've already seen you and heard you speak. Honestly, I think it helps build a level of trust before they even come into your office. They feel like they kind of know you already. So when you come in from the exam, they're like, oh, there's the guy from the video that I saw that brought me in here in the first place and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of benefits to doing these self-shot video ads, but
And we're gonna start wrapping this up here in a second. It's really important to know is like when you shoot this video, if you are working with an agency, how is it being handled? What's done with it, right? So like I know that here at Energize, you and Luke have your monthly meeting. So whether it's us or another agency, you have your monthly meeting. You say, hey, next month we're doing this event, or we're driving traffic to this modality of treatment, and then he says to you, okay, cool, get me videos on that as soon as you can. You get it to him in a timely manner. Luke gets his hands on it. The team looks at it objectively as marketers, and then they decide, okay, we're going to put on these ads, these copies on these platforms. We're going to put this one in a text campaign and send it out to patients that maybe submitted leads but never did anything. And they start to distribute it, and they start to kind of handle the second half of it, and they kind of hand off the baton in your agency, or in this case with you as Energized, but whatever agency you have, they should take that content now and distribute it pretty quickly. And this isn't something like this is pre-planned. Like, it happened in the meeting in January. We had a meeting about this stuff. We said, hey, by the end of the month, get us all these videos. You got them to them. And in February is when we're making the push. We do the push in February. They distribute it to all the platforms the way they think is most effective based on what they know. And then it starts to really work. And the key is that that meeting is the key. It's the jump off point for all this working is the collaborative effort between dentist and marketer, no matter what agency it is. It's that meeting of like, what do you want out of this? What is your goal? We think this is the best tool for your goal. You trust them. You shoot the video. You provide the video. It gets back to them. They do whatever little production they need to do on it, whether it's overlays or some text, and then it gets distributed across platforms and maybe via text message. But that all started with the collaborative, deliberate meeting, working together as a team with the marketer.
yeah, I mean, teamwork it's one of our core values for my organization. So I mean, it's important no matter what you're talking about. You're talking about you and your hygienist working together, you and your assistant working together, your assistant and your treatment coordinator working together, you and your marketing company, whatever it is. Like you've got to work together as a team. Everyone's got to put some effort in. That's how you get the best results. I wanted to talk about one more important mistake that I've made, and I think it just kind of comes back to my human nature. I'm not the most patient person.
You have no patience.
No, I really don't, which
You
is which is
don't at
why I
all.
keep opening startups so quickly because I can't sit still. But with advertising, I do think it's super important to have your finger on the pulse, and you obviously don't want to waste money running an ad that just is not effective for super extended periods of time. However, I think I was at the other end of the extremes there where I like wouldn't even give an advertisement time to get traction. So, guys, I think a lot of dentists are impatient. I think a lot of people are impatient.
I think it's a human thing. It's not necessarily a dental thing. It's like I think the world kind of like conditions us to instant gratification now.
Yeah, you stole the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly what I was going to say. I think
I mean, it's just the way it is.
I think in today's society, we do have that expectation of instant gratification. So, one more word of advice and something that I've learned is you got to have a little bit of patience with the ads. And I'm not saying to sit there and for, 2 years running some crappy ad or some mailer that's not bringing any results. You've got to measure the results from your advertising, whether you're doing it, your marketing company's doing it. You've got to look at these results and you've got to make informed decisions, but just make sure you don't jump the gun. Because if you run an ad for 1 week and you're like, oh, this isn't performing well, it probably hasn't had enough time to gain traction. So that's I guess kind of my last mistake and my last piece of advice. Before we recap everything we just talked about today, I did want to mention, so on this podcast, we basically never talk about Matt's company, Energize Group. We did mention it a little bit in this episode today. Obviously, I'm a big fan. I've gotten to know Matt well. We're friends. I agreed to be his co host in this podcast. They've played a huge role in the growth of my dental group, and I'm honestly very appreciative of what they've done for me. Matt has been kind enough to offer the Dental Unfiltered listeners discounted pricing if they want to try out Energize marketing services. So if you don't have a marketing company, if you're not happy with your current marketing company, if you just want a second opinion, Matt's willing to give you guys a kind of free consultation, talk to him, see, him or Riley is their other kind of director there. You guys can learn a little more about what they do, what they can do. You guys can see if it's a good fit. And again, if you come from the podcast and you mention that, you had seen or heard about it from Dental Unfiltered, they are going to give you a discount on your marketing services. So, Matt, what's the best way for them to reach out if they'd like a marketing consultation with you?
Really simple. Email Riley. It's RILEY at energize-group.com. Just email Riley, put dental unfiltered, like, I guess, fan or something in the subject line. Say, hey, I'd really love to talk to you about marketing. Guys, we don't ever plug it on purpose because we want this to be a value, value show for you guys where it's all about you and not about me and Andrew and the things that we do. But one thing that I take a lot of pride in at my company, and this comes from my special operations background, I believe in small team effectiveness. And a lot of companies have like one account manager for 100 accounts. We have one for 30. So, like, for every 30 accounts, you have one professional dedicated to you who's servicing you, who all the stuff we just talked about, it doesn't get lost in the sauce because they handle it and take it from the department to department in the company and make sure it gets executed and done. So, from a customer service standpoint, it's really an awesome experience. But if you want to do a free consultation with me or Riley, just email Riley. It's Riley at energize-group.com. We have a special discount for dental unfiltered listeners that you can come on and get. And I promise, guys, this isn't necessarily a plug for Energize, but come on, we can talk about your practice capacity, where your collections are, where you want to go, what state you're in. And even if we're not the right fit, we can guide you to what is. We aren't necessarily the right solution for everybody, but we can tell you the realities of your market, where you are unbiasedly, and say, hey, man, this is where you're at. You can go this way or this way. What's best for you? And we're pretty good about it. And I would love to meet a lot of you guys. I do meet a lot of you on demos all the time. I come on a demo and people are surprised it's me doing it. If Riley's out sick or something, I'm like, oh, I get to talk to you and I watch your show and I love it. But guys, it's just about growing the practice.
I do want to brag on Matt's company for a second, and I just want to let you guys know something that I think is pretty incredible. The average dental office in the U.S., even in today's day and age, does less than 1 million in annual collections. Dental Intel, which has over 10,000 dental practices, their average dental practice on their platform does a little bit over $1 million a year. So it's a little higher than the average because most of the dentists that are subscribing to analytics are probably a little more savvy than your average dental office. Energize's clients, which are all on Dental Intel, their average collections is over $2 million a year, I
Yeah,
believe,
it's over
Matt.
two. Yeah,
Over
we're actually
two.
in the middle. We're in the middle of a new case study right now for this year, but it's over 2 million. Like you can compare it to the ADA average. I think the ADA average is 800,000. Our practices are averaging like 2.2 million plus. We actually I just met with them. We're doing the new case study for this year coming up right now. But it is our production's higher. The real thing that matters is average patient value, right? So everyone always equates quality of marketing to quality of patient. This I just got this data certified from DI literally this morning. The average patient delivered from Energize to the practice is 2,600. The average patient value on the 10,000 is $600. So we're more than 4 times average patient value for the patients we deliver. So if you need high value mouths that are fee for service, we're the high value mouth people.
So, guys, I guess last word of caution. I'm going to recap things. Again, you get out what you put in. So if you are interested in trying out, working with Energize and you want to see results like what I have been getting the last 3 years with them, number one, you've got to actually come prepared to put some work in. You can't just sign on with them and let them take over and not be involved in any of the processes. That's not going to lead to success. That's not team collaboration. You also can't come in and think you're going to spend very small amount on your ad spend and see similar results. So, it's all a numbers game, guys. Even with great marketing, like patients don't come free. So again, I typically spend $15,000 to $20,000 a month on marketing, and that's how I've grown my startups so incredibly fast. That's how my flagship startup's going to do over 3.5 million this year, and it's only 3.5 years old. So there is a return on the investment, but you have to have an abundance mindset. You have to be willing to spend the money. And I'm not saying that you have to spend 15 to 20 grand a month, but just keep things in perspective. If you're like, hey, I'm going to spend 2,000 a month on ad spend, you're only going to get a fraction of the growth in new patients as someone who's spending 15 to 20. I did talk to a dentist today who has become kind of a friend, and I got to know him a little bit through the podcast. He's reached out to me a few times. And he's getting ready to open an implant only startup. And so we're talking about budgets and numbers and what he's spending. And he's looking to start out spending about half what I normally do. And I said, hey man, you're going to get some good traction with that. Just realize it is a numbers game, and you're probably not going to see the same results that I see with these startups if you're spending half on ad spend. And he understands that, not everyone has the same appetite for risk that I do. Again, just keep those things in perspective, guys. To recap what we talked about today, I know we talked about a lot. I really do hope you guys got some good pearls out of today's episode. I think some of the big picture ideas are marketing is really important. Marketing is not something you should DIY. I learned the hard way that marketing is not something you should cheap out on. It's kind of like hiring the cheapest attorney to defend you in a lawsuit. You don't want that. Like, what are your chances looking like, going up against a polished attorney if you hire a cheap one? So cheap does not mean better. Honestly, I think for what Energize does, their fees are very reasonable. But you've got to be willing to invest in good marketing. You've got to keep a finger on the pulse. Video ads are the wave of the future. So, again, highly recommend taking out your camera, shooting some selfie videos, doing some advertising that way.
The reality is, let's say it's not Energize, right? The relationship stuff we talked about this episode of having that real collaborative relationship and making it deliberate and a priority and something you invest in, not just monetarily, but you invest your brain in, is really important for that good relationship with the marketer, whether it's Energize or guys, our our space has a ton of great marketers. Progressive, Studio 88, all these companies, depending on what your flavors. You want to have the best projection of your vision ever. Like the Ferrari is 88's websites are gorgeous, right? There's so many things. The problem is if you're not doing a collaborative effort with Energize, whoever the agency is, you're not going to get much out of it. And that's just the way it is. You have to put effort in to have that collaborative effort. That meeting every month is so critical. I think it's a fundamental skill, and I think navigating the meeting properly prepared, like you do, Andrew, is an advanced skill that in marketing and dealing with it. So, guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. Really great episode. Thanks for listening to us, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like, subscribe, leave reviews. Please share the episode if it was helpful for you. Share it to other dentists so we can help others. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.